South Africa's mobile operator Vodacom maintains it followed due process in bidding for a contract to provide mobile services to the government. African Development Bank Board delays a vote on a $296 million financing package for Air Côte d'Ivoire's purchase of 5 new Airbus A320s. Plus, South Sudan in talks with Sudan to restart river transport and boost trade between the two countries. Hello and welcome. This is Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu. We get started now with the markets. And here in Africa, markets looked mixed at intraday with NSE and Egypt in the red, while JSE was trading up 0.28%. And the drop in the share price of Cadbury and Nigerian breweries at intraday helped place the NSE All-Share Index in the red zone, down 0.05%. The Nairobi Stock Exchange closed down 0.33% on Wednesday. In the Middle East, stock markets there were mostly weak at intraday, with individual stocks reacting to company-specific news in Saudi Arabia, while Qatar continued to decline from a 5-year low. Saudi-based insurer MetLife, AIG, A&B Cooperative Insurance surged its 10% daily limit after the company announced that the industry regulator had approved the opening of 3 new outlets in Riyadh, Jeddah, and Koba. MetLife said the positive financial impact will be reflected in its fourth quarter results. The main Saudi index was down 0.64% at intraday. Qatar's index, which closed at a 5-year low on Wednesday, continued to decline and fell 0.26%. Banking and commodity-linked shares were again the main drags. Commercial Bank lost 1.2% and Gulf International Services fell 0.9%. In Dubai, the index was down 0.21% in relatively thin trade. In Abu Dhabi, the index edged down 0.44% as First Abu Dhabi Bank lost 1%. Moving now to Europe, where stocks edged lower in early trade as investors monitored political events and took a cautious approach ahead of key data releases. Now, crisis in Spain is still making the rounds. For details of how that and other markets developments are coming up, I'm being joined by DWTV Channels TV financial correspondent Ulrich Batz. Good afternoon, Ulrich. Thank you very much for joining us on this day.
Hi.
Right, the Spain-Catalonia crisis seems to be deepening, but the Spanish stocks are turning green today. Now, what are the projections and outlook if the separatists make good their plans to declare independence next Monday?
I think the expectancy is that there's going to be disturbances in the market when that happens, if independence is declared on Monday, and there will be nervousness that will remain until that time. You can already feel it this week. You can feel it today. You know, the DAX here in Germany, for example, reached a record high this week, but then it sort of eased off after that, and there was not much coming after that. And so the market is looking very closely at Spain. I think that's the main issue for the moment, hoping that everything turns out well there. Excuse me. If there should be violence in Spain, in Catalonia, on Monday, when independence is declared, then there could not just be disturbances, but turmoil as well. Here in the markets that could set off major movements in stocks and in the euro, probably in the bond market as well, at least as far as Spanish paper goes. And it could lead to flows of money going into safe havens like gold and bonds, but I think it's very difficult at the moment to really project what's going to be happening because we don't know what's going to be happening in Catalonia.
Oh, well, sorry about that, Ulrich. But looking behind you there, looking at the movement of the DAX, just wondering if the oil market is contributing to that movement on DAX. We've seen quite a buzz going on around the oil market. Now, with Saudi King heading to Moscow, how is Europe digesting this move and President Putin's hint that Russia is likely to extend cutback deal till end of 2018?
I think the market is digesting that move quite well, even though I think politically it's of great concern here to many people to see Putin and the Saudi king moving together there. I think that's something that not very many people here in Europe really favor as a good movement there. But of course, from the point of view of their mutual interest, the oil market, it's understandable that the Saudis and the Russians should seek to talk to one another. And the main issue is there going to be an extension of that cutback? And certainly Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, has indicated already publicly that in principle he might feel inclined to extend that, but he hasn't committed himself yet. He has said that he will look at the situation in March. Sounds like not a definite yes, but certainly also not a definite no on that very important question for all oil-producing countries at the moment.
Now, Ulrich, just before I let you go, what is the latest in Deutsche Bank as this banking giant restructures and set for an IPO of one of its units?
I think the people in the market are a little bit skeptical at the moment at the restructuring going on at the Deutsche Bank. The Deutsche Bank has been seen to be oscillating between this and that, first taking public or selling the Post Bank, a very important subsidiary that they bought for a lot of money, but seeing that it's not possible and now keeping it in the group. And this IPO with Deutsche Asset Management, which basically develops and sells the mutual funds for the group, that's been seen as back and forth as well. There have been many decisions that have said this for the group, for this asset management, and then this, and now it's to be an IPO. The IPO will take place, that much is for sure, and the Deutsche Bank is targeting October, the end of this month. That's what we hear, and we don't hear that there's any change in that. And the Deutsche Bank looks to take in somewhere probably between 1 and 2 billion euros for that, because Deutsche Asset is valued at about 8 billion euros. And interestingly enough, that's a large part, that's about a third of the market value of the Deutsche Bank. And of course, with this money, the Deutsche Bank will take in money that it can use to bolster its capital base. That's much needed. At the same time, by reducing its share in Deutsche Asset, it's of course releasing into the world one of its main money makers. So I think many people are looking at this with great interest, but also with a lot of skepticism, and certainly not the move to relieve the pressure from CEO John Crine, who's seen as doing a less than perfect job at handling all the problems that the bank has.
All right, thank you very much, Ulrich. We'll wait for more company news coming out of the markets later in the day, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the day.